Kia ora, welcome to Bus Days. I'm still kind of stuck. I've built my way forward on the bus and I've got to the point where I cannot really continue inside without seatbelts. Maybe I'm going to have to change tack and move underneath it or above it, but at the end of the day I'm stuck. Waiting on engineers. I've got two that I'm trying to talk to at the moment. Both have stopped replying, so it's about time I dropped them and moved to another. I've got another potential contact available, so I'm going to give them a try maybe later this week and see how that goes. But in the meantime, I've been shopping and kind of spending my engineer money anyway because I'm bored shitless and I need something to do with this bus. So I bought some cool stuff. Have a look. The coolest of which is this. I've looked at a number of inverters. This is just a little one. 500 volt amps, 400 and something watts. Victron Energy. Man, this thing's damn heavy. So this is 24 volts, 500 volt amps, output at 230. Pure sine wave. I've gone for the Victron unit because it's not crazy expensive, but they do appear to make some really good quality stuff. Very popular, well supported, and there are a few things about it that I liked. I would have preferred a second outlet, but that's not that much of a biggie. But I do like, they have this V Direct plug, which I don't have any of the extras that can go with that, but that can connect it to all sorts of neat things, in particular a Bluetooth dongle if you want to talk to it with a phone app or anything like that. At the end of the day, it's just an inverter, so I'm not that worried about it. Handles 10 square millimeter input wires, which is nice, and it has a couple of different power modes, so I can turn it on. You can see that there. So I can turn it on for normal, or I could turn it on to eco, and it also has a jumper across here for a remote on-off switch, which I think would be kind of better than that even. Comparing the specs of these things is really difficult. Every company talks in different languages and different situations, but they do have kind of similar basic things. A few of the key things are the output voltage. This is 230 volts. A lot of them are 220, which is kind of a bit low for my liking, really. And 50 hertz. Well, another key thing for me is the peak power. So when you turn an appliance on, it tends to use a little more power as it starts up than what it's actually would use to run. And sometimes that can be quite a lot, sometimes that can be twice as much. So this is a 500 volt amp or 400 watt inverter, which would, as the temperature gets, and that's at 25 degrees, as the temperature gets up to 40 degrees, it's only good for about 350 watts, which is more than enough for the sort of things I'm looking at running on. But it has a 900 watt peak power. A lot of similar sized units don't have anywhere near that peak power. Another key thing for me is the input voltage range. I'm not actually sure whether that's going to matter that much. A lot of it does depend on my battery choice, which I haven't fully nailed down yet. So this will go from 18.4 volts, it will shut off at 18.4 volts, and the peak voltage it can handle is 34. Now 34 volts is quite high. That's 10 volts above like a flat 24 volt battery, which actually makes it kind of possible to work with, and I'll talk more about this later on batteries, but it does make it possible to work with an 8-cell leaf battery, but more on that later. Other than that, the efficiency is really good. It's 90%. You know, a lot of units are sitting in the mid, sometimes even low 80s, and it's zero power draw, zero load draw is 6.5 watts. Now that's with it turned on to fully on and no load on it. So 6.5 watts is quite low, but in eco mode that drops to about 1.5 watts. Which, like I say, in eco mode it switches on and switches off and it just checks for load and goes back to resting again. Not sure whether that's a great idea or not. We'll give it a try. I'm going to run a remote switch anyway so I can turn it off. I like turning stuff off. I really like how heavy it is. It is very heavy for 500 watts, and it looks really solidly made, so that's very cool. That's mostly for running like a little blender, a couple of other little handy little kitchen tools which I really don't want to sacrifice, and can't find an ideal low voltage equivalent. The blender in particular. The battery powered USB chargeable ones are just junk. I've tried a couple now and I'm not impressed. They work fine, I guess, if you're trying to mix up some protein powder shake crap thing, but I'm not. I either want to mix hot drinks or I will want to crush ice, and they're no good at either. So 240 volts, maybe 300 watts Magic Bullet or similar is the go. And that'll run, and that will run them nicely. Now it'll also run another toy I've bought, and I'll show you that now. Oh, I got visitors. This is a downdraft rear riser range hood. I hate range hoods. I can't stand them. I bang my head on them all the time. Have a look at this. I've hit my head on this so many times. I've gone and put a pool noodle around it so that it doesn't hurt anymore. I do not want one of these in my bus. So the solution is this. Now this is, and it doesn't look very exciting at the moment because it's down, but when I press the button it rises up and turns on the extraction fan, which is in this box here, and that will then suck all of the cooking steam and stuff down and out through the floor, so I don't need a hole in the roof and I don't have anything to bang my head on. And I had one of these in a house years and years ago. I thought it was very cool. I bought it hoping all of this was at a lower voltage, but it's all 240, and even the control systems I'm not going to be able to convert to run on 24 volts. So it's either a case of simply use it as a frame and put 24 volt gear into it. That means the riser system and stuff, I can't use any of that, which I don't like the idea of, so I'm going to run it at 240. So this here is something else I'm quite excited about. Now, as soon as I pull this out, if you know what it is, you'll know. Little diesel air heater. Now, although my bus is going to be 24 volts, this is a 12 volt one, which means I'd have to run it through a voltage reducer. In fact, maybe off of a small 12 volt battery to handle the startup loads. But I got it quite cheap, so I'm happy with that. Now this is, it's a Chinese unit. It's a Belief brand, which is, from what I can see, the most expensive Chinese unit that there is. Possibly one of the better ones. There's quite a few New Zealand agents now selling this heater, and I think you can buy it on Trade Me from Brooker's Marine over on the shore for about $900 or eight or $900. I fortunately got it for a little less than that at auction. So the only thing that's missing is the exhaust and intake. So it's missing the exhaust and intake, but it does have some of the, and the ducting. But it does have all of the wiring loom, the fuel pump, fuel lines, little digital controller, and it appears to have everything else it needs for the install. It's just the exhaust pipe, muffler, air intake, air filter, and some ducting. And so I've actually just ordered a kit that includes all of that for about $35 or something, delivered from China. So that's very cool. Wasn't even 100% sure I was going to go with a diesel air heater, but it came up, so I've grabbed it. And I will most probably put it into the bus, so I'm going to certainly run it up here in the garage and see what it looks like, so I'll do a video on that a bit later on. Some more toys. This is a voltage reducer. It's actually a 5-circuit voltage reducer for running trailer lights off of a 24-volt truck. Now this is a heavy duty one, I guess, for running, well, bloody big trailers, because the highest circuit can handle 480 watts. Now that's like 40 amps at 12 volts, so that's a lot of power. And the lowest, you know, the 480 on the tail light circuit, 350 on the stop light circuit, and the indicators in reverse can each handle 200 watts. So that's a fair bit of grunt. I'm not sure of its no load current draw. So I'll find out and see whether that's useful for being able to control multiple circuits from 24 volts at 12 volts. In the event that that is not, I've got maybe 3 of those, so if you want one, get in touch. Now the thing is, I bought a kind of a random box of stuff. So I have a couple of battery isolators which enable you to, this is 12 or 24 volts. It's a bit like a VSR, but you can also control it from the ignition, and it enables you to have a house battery on one circuit and a starting battery on another circuit, and charge them both at the same time with the alternator. This here is a Keon lights on controller override thing. I have absolutely no idea what it's all for, so I'll have to look it up. It's worth a fair bit of coin though. So it must be useful. This is probably a little bit old school, really. They used to be more useful before the days of LEDs, but this is actually a mini inverter, a mini 240 volt inverter. Oh, I think it's actually 220, but for running fluorescent lights in a car or a truck. You would have seen these, if you're converting a bus, you will have seen these in the overhead lights that were in the bus, which were originally fluorescent, and they each would have had one of these little units in them. Possibly a smaller one if they were a small tube. These are quite powerful ones. Yeah, they'll run a 40 watt fluorescent tube, so they're quite powerful ones. Might be handy for in the back of a horse truck or something, I don't know. But no use to me, and unfortunately in the box was a whole stack of those. So if you want one of those, or 5 of those, get in touch, we'll do a real good deal for you. What I was actually after was a simple voltage reducer. Now this will take 24 volts down to 12 volts. This one here is rated at a continuous 12 amps, which is not too bad. and it has an output at 13.8 volts, which means it would pretty much run, you know, like a battery at float. So for something like a diesel heater, you might want over 200 watts or something to fire up the glow plug to start it, but once it's running it's consuming maybe 15 to 30 watts or something like that. So something like this would be more than capable of running it, but probably won't start it of a 24 volt system. So perhaps the best way to run something like that has a very high startup current for a brief period and then backs off would be to actually run it off a little 12 volt battery, and it doesn't need to be a very big battery, and run that off of this. I've got a handful of these are smaller ones. I've got smaller ones, I've got bigger ones, and I've got even bigger ones. I'm not sure how many I need or where I'm actually going to put them, but I bought some. While I was going crazy at the auction, I bought some more tools as well, tap and die set, but I've hidden it away so that the wife can't see it, because it's almost as bad as buying shoes, buying tools. And I also have a couple of smaller trailer light sets. So if you have, I don't have a tow bar on the bus. I'm probably not going to put one on the bus. It's just ridiculously expensive to achieve on a heavy vehicle. But if you happen to have a 24 volt vehicle and you want to hook 12 volt trailers to it, I've got just the thing. Get in touch. So that's my little toy haul, a mixture of very useful, very necessary items and a bunch of things I probably will never use, but it gives me a couple of projects I can work on, working out now how to build that downdraft extractor fan into some sort of cabinet for the stove, and where to hook up the inverter and the likes. And find a home for the air heater, just in case I put it in the bus. I'm still working out what I really want to do in terms of heating. I've got the fireplace, but I don't think that should be my only source of heat, and I need to heat water, so I've still got to work something out there. So thanks for watching my little toy video, and hope you enjoyed it. If you do, you know what to do with the buttons and stuff, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Take care, mā te rā.